Around this time in 2010, Haiti was devastated by a 7.0 magnitude earthquake. I'm sure most of us can remember where we were when we heard the news or saw images of the displaced people, the crumbled buildings and the rising death toll. The next 6 days are being observed as Earthquake Awareness Week. So please, get the information that could possibly save your life in the event of an earthquake. Visit odpem.org.jm or call 1-888-991-4262 toll-free. Hello and welcome to another edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. We have a lot lined up for you, so please stay with us.
Good day, I'm Carrie-Ann Smith and this is your GIS News for Monday, January 13. Police Commissioner Owen Ellington says Jamaica is making serious strides in the fight against crime. Speaking on GIS TV's Issues and Answers, Commissioner Ellington said although the country's crime rate was still too high, Jamaica's situation had improved since 2007.
The murder rate is about 35% of what, reduced by about 35% of what it was in 2007. Other serious crimes have been declining constantly. In fact, we have just completed 4 consecutive years of declines in major crimes. Last year, for the first time in 4 years, only murders show increases, and it increased over 2012.
The goal is to reduce the murder rate to 12 per 100,000 citizens by 2017. Meanwhile, a revamped community-based policing program will form part of the crime-fighting strategy for 2014. Among the initiatives is the Prosecution Liaison Officer Program, which will see police officers appearing in court on behalf of colleagues who are either investigating officers or are appearing as police witnesses.
And convince the court that these officers are available to attend and give evidence when required, but for the time being, they are on duty. What this would do is to prevent hundreds of policemen from waiting in court for hours for an opportunity to give evidence when they could be out there protecting the public.
About 400 motorcycles will also be purchased to facilitate the deployment of 1,000 uniformed officers into communities. 2,000 police officers will be added to the Jamaica Constabulary Force when the merger with the Island Special Constabulary Force is completed. The Public Sector Housing Development Program has also approved the construction of a police station in every community with more than 100 houses. And through a partnership with private developers, police stations will be built in large housing complexes. The Area 1 Police Division will be clamping down on illegal motorcyclists who are breaching the road code.
The motorcycles in Westmoreland are unlicensed. The riders are without driver's license. And we intend to enforce the Road Traffic Act very stringently this year.
The Area 1 head says most motor vehicle crashes in the western end of the island are caused by speeding and improper road use by motorists and pedestrians. As such, improving road safety is to be a major goal of the police this year. Meanwhile, the police who man the parishes of St. James, Westmoreland, Hanover and Trelawney are also looking to build on their success in the fight against the drugs trade in 2013. And after arresting 227 suspects last year, lotto scammers will again be targeted in 2014. While thanking and urging citizens to continue the support they showed last year, ACP Clark had a word for criminals.
Turn yourselves in, submit peacefully to the security forces, and reduce the risk to life that confrontations are likely to cause.
As Jamaica forges ahead to develop the nation's global logistics hub, members of the public are being offered free training to take advantage of the opportunities being created. The Logistics 101 training is being offered through the Caribbean Maritime Institute, CMI, and comes with certification for participants. CMI's Executive Director and Chairman of the Education and Training Subcommittee for the Logistics Hub Task Force, Dr. Fritz Pinnock, says the course is a response to the call from the public who wants to know what's happening.
The feedback has been very good. We have gone into, so far, I think about 7 parishes. We're going across all 14 parishes, which is the mandate from the task force, the chairman and the minister. When people get an understanding, we can see opportunities. And this is what is important.
Already more than 3,600 persons have benefited from the training. Just last week, more than 100 staff members of Vere Technical High School in Clarendon became the latest group to receive certification. They were tutored in areas such as Jamaica's geographic strengths and cultural relevance and the role and function of the global shipping gateways. And finally, Jamaicans are being urged to place greater focus on climate change and learn vital lessons from the recent torrential rain disaster experienced by our Caribbean neighbors. This latest appeal comes from Minister Robert Pickersgill amid increasing global climate changes.
It only takes one event to remind us of the need to become climate resilient in a region projected to be at the forefront of climate change impacting in the future. The tragedy in the Eastern Caribbean highlights a significant need to increase our technical expertise and infrastructure within Jamaica and the region.
And that's it for JIS News today. I'm Carrie-Ann Smith. Thanks for watching.
Don't make diseases spread. Wash your hands with soap and water instead. Wash them regular or use a hand sanitizer. Make sure the germs them dead. Touching your eyes or your mouth or your nose. Wash your hands before you do things like those. After you use the bathroom before preparing food, come on, wash your hand them clean.
Laying the foundation for a global shipping and logistics hub, improvements in road infrastructure and greater access to housing were among the major preoccupations of this ministry in 2013. Take a look.
Major shipping and logistics investments, improved road infrastructure, enhanced public transportation, and increased access to housing solutions. The Ministry of Transport Works and Housing in the year 2013. A major investment proposal was advanced in 2013 to create thousands of jobs and support government's plans to make Jamaica the fourth major global logistics hub.
The plan is to implement the project over a 5-year period. When completed, the industrial park will employ approximately 10,000 workers.
The Transport Ministry, through the Port Authority of Jamaica, PAJ, is preparing a framework agreement for the development of the $1.5 billion transshipment port by China Harbour Engineering Company. That's after the PAJ conducted an environmental scoping study which found that the development could be executed on the Goat Islands and lands in the Old Harbour Bay area with the appropriate measures to protect the environment.
The administration will be working closely with CHEC to ensure that all preliminary work is carried out within a year, leading to actual construction beginning during fiscal year 2014-2015.
As part of the efforts to position Jamaica as the transshipment and logistics hub of the Americas, government also shortlisted 3 bidders last year for the privatization of the Kingston Container Terminal, KCT. The state-owned bus company also witnessed significant developments in 2013. The Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, increased its fleet of buses to 350 in a bid to improve its service and revenue flows. At the same time, the company signed an agreement to have its buses repaired by young persons trained at the Hartrust NTA. When a 25% fare increase was announced for all public transport operators, JUTC announced that children, the disabled, and pensioners would not face an increase in their bus fares.
A cashless system is being introduced, whereby all commuters who wish to qualify for concessionary fares must purchase the electronic smart cards through designated outlets.
Government also advanced work to create a land transportation authority through the merger of the Transport Authority and Island Traffic Authority by the next fiscal year. In his May sectoral presentation, Transport Works and Housing Minister Dr. Omar Davies announced a $350 million major infrastructure development program, MIDP.
China Harbour will be given responsibility for major projects with a total value of $220 million US. Local contractors will be allocated exclusively projects with a total value of US $130 million. $80 million to be supervised by NWA, and $50 million US through Jeep.
It was not the only major infrastructure development program to be announced in 2013.
A total of $500 million has been committed to carry out a set of infrastructure and works program that will be undertaken island-wide.
Funding is coming from the Ministry of Finance, IMF, Capital A of the National Budget, the Road Maintenance Fund, and the Tourism Enhancement Fund. Other critical road works were completed or started in 2013. Segment 2 of the north-south link of Highway 2000 from Linstead to Moneague neared completion during the year. Construction also started on Segment 1 from Ferry to Linstead and Segment 3 from Moneague to Ocho Rios. Meanwhile, Segment 3 of the Northern Coastal Highway Improvement Project was opened in May. National Works Agency NWA road surfacing, sidewalk and draining improvement projects in sections of Hanover, St. James and Trelawney served to reduce driving time for motorists and improve pedestrian safety. These and other projects wrapped up work under the Jamaica Development Infrastructure Program JDIP in July. Roads in West Rural St. Andrew, as well as Enfield and adjoining areas in St. Mary were also rehabilitated. Several bridges were completed. Meanwhile, the Jamaica Emergency Employment Program JEEP rolled on, hiring close to 40,000 people while delivering 430 houses to victims of Hurricane Sandy in Portland, St. Mary and St. Thomas. Last year, the Portia Simpson Miller-led administration committed to broadening opportunities for housing solutions and ownership as part of a strategy for effective social inclusion. The Housing Ministry did its part mostly through the work of the Housing Agency of Jamaica, HAJ. Ground was broken for the construction of 173 studio units at Whitehall Phase 3 in Westmoreland at a cost of $390 million. In St. Catherine, construction started on 604 one-bedroom units and 980 studio units at Bernard Lodge, as well as 600 solutions at Shooters Hill. HAJ also entered into public-private partnership agreements for the delivery of housing solutions in Grange Pen St. James, Hopewell Hanover, and Colbeck St. Catherine. Meanwhile, construction works advanced at Bel Air 3 in St. Anne. The ministry made 50 homeowners happier in the year when it wrote off their mortgages under a special debt forgiveness program dubbed the Jubilee 50 for 50 Housing Initiative in celebration of Jamaica's 50th anniversary. Critical policy decisions were also taken during the year to make home ownership easier for all Jamaicans. Amendments to the Mortgage Indemnity Insurance Act led to an increase in the level of mortgage insurance offered through the Jamaica Mortgage Bank.
Increasing the insurance level to 97% from the current 90 means that you have the ability to only ask the potential homeowner to deposit just 3% of the price of the house.
The Housing Ministry also accelerated its titling program to transfer 5,000 of the 9,000 outstanding titles to beneficiaries before the end of the fiscal year. The Ministry of Transport, Works and Housing on a mission in 2013, engaging public-private partnerships, facilitating Jamaica's growth and development.
No, son. A verb is an action word.
Parents need to become more involved in their children's education.
Parents are the first and in many cases the most important teachers.
Read with your children. Review their schoolwork. Visit their school.
Tapping and rapping and slapping, I said.
Nice! High five! Woo!
A good education will never decay.
The government of Jamaica sees the existence of an effective education system as the foundation for national development, and that's why there is an even greater focus on early childhood education to make this a reality.
Imagine a Jamaica where every child has access to the best education at the early childhood level. A Jamaica where world-class education and training is available for all. A Jamaica where every child has all the resources and skills they need to become world-class citizens. Well, that's the government's vision for Jamaica, and it's among the major objectives of the Vision 2030 Jamaica Plan. The government is trying to achieve that vision by making a series of strategic moves. Among them, a focus on early childhood education, and by extension, human capital development in the 2013-2014 fiscal year. The early childhood level covers the pre-primary school years up to grade 3. Government's expenditure in the sector this year is 14.6% of the recurrent education budget. The total, which includes special education, works out to $11 billion and represents the administration's continued commitment to the sector and to our children. Government's first priority for students at the early childhood level, a greater emphasis on literacy. This will enable our youngsters to make the transition from basic to primary school. Another area of focus: better management and usage of available classroom spaces. Under the Basic Schools Rationalization Project, infant departments will be created at 179 primary schools where space is available. To date, students from 63 basic schools have been accommodated at 50 primary schools. 28 contracts worth more than $47.7 million have been awarded to carry out the infrastructural work at those schools. Money to set up the other infant departments will come from the Chase Fund. And during a recent visit to China, Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller struck a deal with the Chinese government for the construction of 2 infant schools, one in Tower Hill, St. Andrew, and the other in Morant Estate, St. Thomas. The Chinese will design and provide construction machinery, equipment, and material.
In order to ensure that our children are capable of learning, the Ministry of Education is overhauling the school feeding program, especially at the early childhood level. We want to have better nutritional content and to use more local farm products.
And to do that, a national school feeding policy is now being developed with funding from the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB. Stakeholder consultations will be conducted during the school year. Additionally, the ministry's school feeding unit under the IDB-funded Modernizing the School Feeding Program is currently implementing a nutrition pilot project in Region 1 starting this September 2013 to July 2014. It will cost $122 million.
We aim to offer the little children a breakfast snack as well as lunch because some 30% of them come to school hungry every day. The plan is to use local fruits and produce in increasing proportions, and the pilot for this project will target the corporate area schools from September this year and will be expanded to other regions as lessons are learned and finances allow.
The pilot is designed to test options for producing and delivering meals to schools, determine the most cost-effective ways to do both, and assess the capacity of local suppliers to provide quality meals to schools at an affordable cost. Educators at the early childhood level must be trained, and so the ministry is moving to provide adequate training for teachers. Programs began in July 2013. Literacy, infrastructure development, nutrition, teacher and parent training, all aspects of the government's focus on early childhood. It's a key point in Jamaica's human capital development, government's 4th strategic priority for the 2013-2014 financial year.
Welcome to the FSE Minute. I am Nadine Newsom. Today we continue to explore issues related to insurance, and my guest is Joan Walker, Manager of Insurance with the FSE. Welcome to the FSE Minute, Joan.
Thank you, Nadine.
Joan, as a potential policy holder, What can I do to ensure that my motor claim will be honored when I submit it to my insurance company?
Well, Nadine, first of all policyholders should ensure that they understand the provisions in their contracts. They should also ensure that they do not violate any of the terms in the contract. For example, who is allowed to drive the motor vehicle? Also, it would help if they are aware of the steps and the documentations necessary for the companies to process their claims efficiently.
And could I place my insurance coverage with any insurance agent in the industry?
Insurance business should be placed only with registered sales representatives who are registered at the FSE. And sales representatives are registered for specific classes of business. Hence, you should always ensure that the sales rep who is negotiating your policy is registered for that type or class of business.
And if I place my business with any broker or agent in the industry, would the insurance company on the cover note be automatically on cover?
Well, Nadine, by law, as long as the policyholder submits payment of premium to the broker or agent, they are on cover and the insurance company is responsible for the policy. However, I must encourage all policyholders to ensure that their receipt has the name of the insurance company with which they are being insured.
Thank you, Joan. My guest today was Joan Walker, Manager of Insurance at the FSE. For the FSE Minute, I am Nadine Newsom.
Some of you may be thinking of making 2014 the year you lay claim to a piece of the rock, so we've put together a list of things to consider before you close the deal on your dream home.
Buying a house is probably one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make. It might even be the single largest expenditure.
What I'd say to potential home buyers is to look for what you can afford. And what you can afford, for the most part, represents your monthly payments.
Home ownership is not something that can be done right off the bat. Most potential home buyers have to contend with the securing a mortgage and finding the deposit, closing costs, and other fees. It's expensive, time-consuming, and if you don't plan properly, could be emotionally draining.
So you start saving your deposit or your closing costs, because those are expenses that, for the most part, will not be financed by any financial institution.
Deposits usually represent taxes being charged by the government. It may be about 5 to 15% of the cost of the house if you're buying on the open market. You want to look out for things like stamp duty, registration, and legal fees. Now, one has to shop around when you're on the hunt for a house, especially if you're looking on the open market.
So whatever price you get, make sure you negotiate. It's not necessarily a buyer's market, but you do have some clout right now in the marketplace.
If you're buying from a developer, check to make sure they are registered with a real estate board. It's also wise to monitor construction and whatever is taking place at the site.
We ask that people be careful when they're making deposits, and don't deposit more than about 30% before you see that house.
All payments should be done through your attorney and the escrow account. That's simply an account that can be monitored by both depositors and the financial institution funding the project. Anyone can buy a house, as long as they have the required fees and a mortgage institution to finance the remainder of the payment. But there's one other critical piece missing from the puzzle: an attorney. The attorney will tell you upfront what you should do even before you are set to receive assistance from a mortgage institution.
An attorney acting on behalf of a purchaser, one of the first things they will do is request a copy of the duplicate certificate of title, and they will carry out a title search. right, at the titles office.
That search is necessary to find out if there was any problem associated with the property. The attorney will also be able to analyze the sale agreement. That's a contract between the vendor and the purchaser.
And oftentimes, if you do not meet your obligations within the time specified, there are consequences, right? You can either lose your deposit, where there is a forfeiture clause in the agreement, or you may have to pay interest on balance outstanding, which will cause the sale to be more expensive than you had anticipated.
Your legal representative will also make sure that the person who is selling the property has the legal right to do so.
We have had instances where persons have been known to sign agreement for sale and their names are not on the title as registered owners, and persons have paid over their monies and are not able to get it back.
Two other critical documents that the lawyer will examine are the surveyor's ID and valuation report. The valuation report describes the property and outlines its monetary value. It might also outline the amenities available in the surrounding communities.
The surveyor's ID report now is usually prepared by a land surveyor, and this one outlines what the boundaries of your property is. It identifies what the property is on the ground to make sure that what you're buying on paper is what is on the ground.
And if you're planning to build on your own, make sure you get the proper building approvals and technical input.
It's not as important to construct a home, but you want to make sure that that home can last for some time.
The dream of owning a home can become a reality. Start the planning process early. It's probably one of the biggest investments you'll ever make.
I know by now some of you may have fallen off or are about to renege on your New Year's resolution. But we're here to assist you in staying the course. After all, this could be your breakthrough year. Whether it is saving more to buy a house, a car, or for retirement, put away whatever you can because one cocoa, full basket. How about self-improvement? Whether it may mean getting closer to your faith, going back to school, or taking better care of your health. These goals are all important to your holistic development. Remember, only your best is good enough. So strive to make 2014 your year to shine, and in so doing, make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. And that's how we draw the curtains down on today's edition of Jamaica Magazine. Have queries or comments? Email us, jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm, or join us on Twitter @JISNews. You may also browse our website, jis.gov.jm, for the latest government news, reviews, and interviews for your viewing pleasure. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson, reminding you to know your vulnerability and improve your capacity to withstand an earthquake, should one occur.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.